Emma had always carried the weight of a painful past like an heirloom, one that was as heavy as the humid, amber nights in Accra, Ghana. Growing up in a bustling, resilient community where every smile was hard-won, she learned early that life could be both a blessing and a curse. The old mansion, now her own, was purchased as a calculated act of revenge, a dramatic rebuttal to the bullies who had tormented her family for generations. The mansion, once owned by one of those very bullies, stood as a crumbling relic of past sins. Its faded facade whispered secrets of opulence and cruelty, of laughter that had long since turned bitter with regret. Emma's decision to buy it was as much a reclaiming of power as it was a public declaration. The past, with all its wounds and betrayals, would no longer control her destiny. In the soft twilight of a humid African evening, as the market vendors wrapped up their day's trade and the scent of grilled maize and spices filled the air, Emma stood before her new domain. The building, weathered by time and neglect, carried an unsettling beauty. It was as if every chipped stone and every rusted iron gate mourned a lost innocence. Behind its walls lay the ghosts of memories, both her own and those of her long-vanished sister, who had once laughed and dreamed among these very corridors. In that moment, the mansion was more than just stone and mortar. It was a battleground where long-held grudges and buried family secrets were destined to collide. Emma's eyes, dark and determined, flickered with the fierce light of someone who had seen too much sorrow and was now ready to fight back. The old mansion, with its creaks and sighs, seemed to breathe in anticipation of the storm that was about to break. The city around her buzzed with life and hope, yet within Emma's heart a storm raged, a tempest fueled by betrayal, heartbreak, and a deep, unyielding desire for justice. Her journey was not just one of vengeance, but a desperate bid to reclaim the fragments of a shattered past, to stitch them back together with threads of courage and raw, unfiltered truth. The mansion's history was as twisted and dark as the winding alleys of Kumasi's old quarters. Every brick in its foundation told a story of power and corruption, of the rise and fall of those who had thought themselves untouchable. Emma had learned that the building was once the playground of privileged bullies, men who had used their influence to trample on the lives of those less fortunate. Their crimes were not random acts of cruelty, they were systematic assaults on her family's honor and well-being, carefully orchestrated to leave a mark of shame that would persist for generations. In hushed tones over steaming cups of local cocoa, the elders in her neighborhood recalled how these bullies had manipulated not just fortunes but destinies. The revelation that they had once plotted in the shadowed corners of this very mansion sent shivers down Emma's spine. She had inherited not only the mansion but also the unresolved rage that simmered beneath every memory of loss. Her purchase was a symbolic act, a reclaiming of dignity and an initiation of a vendetta long overdue. Walking through the threshold for the first time, Emma was greeted by a heavy silence that spoke volumes. The interior, draped in layers of dust and cobwebs, resonated with the echoes of laughter turned bitter and promises turned to ash. Each room was a silent witness to past atrocities and the lingering specter of betrayal. In one of the grand halls where faded portraits of long-dead aristocrats stared down disapprovingly, Emma could almost hear the whispered confessions of secrets too horrible to be named. There, amid the debris of shattered lives and broken dreams, lay the remnants of a past that had defined her very existence. The mansion was not just a building. It was a living testament to the cruelty that had once been inflicted upon her family, a dark monument that now beckoned her to delve deeper into its mysteries. With every step, the mansion urged her to uncover the truth, a truth that was buried beneath layers of dust and deceit, waiting to be unearthed and laid bare for the world to see. As dawn crept over the horizon, painting the sky in hues of burning orange and soft pink, Emma set out on a journey within the walls of her new dominion. The cool, early morning air carried the scent of damp earth and the promise of revelations hidden in shadowed corners. The mansion, with its towering, time-worn pillars and weather-beaten balconies, loomed over the surrounding neighborhood like an ancient sentinel guarding secrets too painful to speak aloud. Emma's footsteps echoed softly on the worn marble floors, each step a reminder of the cost of vengeance and the burden of past tragedies. She moved through long, dim corridors where the only light came from narrow windows and the gentle glow of her flickering lantern. The interior was a canvas of contrasts. Grand, opulent spaces now decayed and forgotten, juxtaposed with the raw, visceral energy of memories too potent to fade. Emma's thoughts wandered to the bullies who had once ruled these halls with cruelty, their laughter now replaced by the haunting whispers of the past. Every creak of the floorboards, every distant echo, seemed to carry a message, a secret waiting to be uncovered. The architecture was a blend of colonial influences and indigenous craftsmanship, with intricate carvings that told stories of love, betrayal, and the timeless struggle for justice. In one particularly ornate room, decorated with faded tapestries and intricately patterned tiles, Emma discovered a peculiar emblem etched into the wall. It was a symbol she had seen before in old family diaries. A mark that connected her to a history of honor and sacrifice, a history that had been stolen from her by those she now sought to vanquish. The mansion, in all its eerie majesty, was beginning to reveal its true nature. Not merely a monument to past sins, but a living, breathing archive of her family's legacy. As Emma pressed on, her heart pounded with a mixture of fear, determination, and an overwhelming need for redemption. The path ahead was uncertain, fraught with dangers both seen and unseen. Yet she knew that every step taken within these ancient walls would bring her closer to the truth of her sister's disappearance and the dark secrets that had shaped her destiny. In the dim light of a waning afternoon, Emma began to unravel the mysteries that the mansion so desperately guarded. Her fingers, trembling yet resolute, traced the delicate carvings on the wooden banister as she ascended a creaking staircase that led to the upper floors. Each step brought with it an increasing sense of foreboding mixed with a burning curiosity that refused to be quenched. Memories of her childhood, the playful laughter shared with her older sister, the gentle hum of their shared dreams, seemed to echo in these corridors. Yet now, the mansion's walls held whispers of betrayal and lost promises. In a dusty corner of an expansive parlor, Emma discovered a hidden door cleverly concealed behind a tattered, moth-eaten curtain. The door, its surface scarred by time and neglect, beckoned her with an almost magnetic pull. As she slowly pushed it open, a rush of stale, cold air greeted her, carrying with it the faint scent of forgotten secrets. Inside, the room was a crypt of memories, a place where relics of a bygone era lay forgotten beneath layers of dust and sorrow. Among these relics, Emma's eyes caught sight of an old, ornate chest with intricate patterns reminiscent of the art from her grandmother's stories. Her heart pounded in her chest as she knelt before it, hesitating for a moment that stretched into eternity. With a deep, shuddering breath, she lifted the heavy lid, revealing a collection of aged letters, faded photographs, and cryptic symbols. Each piece of evidence told a fragment of the story, a story of betrayal, loss, and a vengeance that was as cold as the stone that surrounded her. The photographs were especially haunting, snapshots of a time when her family's smile was as bright as the African sun, now juxtaposed against grim expressions of despair and menace. As Emma absorbed the images, the stark reality of the mansion's history began to crystallize in her mind. The bullies who had once tormented her family were not mere miscreants, they were the architects of a grand, insidious conspiracy, their crimes etched into every corner of this decaying sanctuary. With each revelation, the mansion transformed before her eyes from a silent structure into an active participant in her quest for truth. The room pulsed with the weight of unspoken confessions, and Emma felt the stirring of an ancient power within herself, a call to reclaim not only her lost innocence but also the justice that had been denied to her beloved sister so long ago. As twilight began to cast long, eerie shadows across the mansion's sprawling corridors, Emma felt an insistent pull towards the secrets concealed in the lower levels. The air grew cooler and the sounds of the night began their haunting symphony, whispers of wind through broken windows, the distant murmur of city life, and the faint, rhythmic creaking of the mansion settling into darkness. With each measured step, the floor beneath her feet seemed to groan under the accumulated weight of untold stories and buried sins. She reached a narrow passageway that led to a series of hidden rooms, each more enigmatic than the last. In one particularly claustrophobic space, she discovered remnants of a life once lived. A threadbare rug, a tarnished mirror, and stacks of old journals whose ink had faded with time. The journals, filled with cryptic entries and half-forgotten secrets, hinted at clandestine meetings and a network of conspiracies that had run deeper than she had ever imagined. As she pored over the delicate pages, the names of long-departed figures and descriptions of heinous acts began to form a disturbing mosaic of betrayal and revenge. In that dimly lit room, Emma's mind raced as she began to connect the scattered fragments of her family's tragic history. Her pulse quickened with the realization that the very foundation of her pain was intertwined with the ruthless ambitions of those who had once tormented her. The echoes of laughter and cruelty that had haunted her youth now merged with the tangible evidence of a meticulously orchestrated vendetta. "This isn't just about retribution," she murmured to herself in a hushed, determined tone. "It's about reclaiming every piece of the past that was stolen from me." Outside, the city of Kumasi, with its vibrant markets and spirited people, continued its daily hustle, blissfully unaware of the dark drama unfolding within the mansion's walls. Emma felt as though time had slowed, each second laden with meaning and the imminent promise of revelations that would shake her to the core. The mansion, with its ancient aura and hidden alcoves, was slowly unraveling its secrets, inviting her to look deeper into a history that had long been shrouded in mystery and pain. Every creak, every whisper of the wind seemed to be urging her on, to unearth the evidence of wrongs committed against her family so many years ago, and to confront the very source of her heartbreak with a courage that was both desperate and defiant. In the stillness of that night, as the stars began to pierce the velvety darkness above, Emma sought out the counsel of an old friend. Kwame, a man whose wisdom was as deep-rooted as the ancient baobab trees that dotted the landscape. They met in a modest tea shop tucked away in one of Accra's bustling neighborhoods, a place where locals gathered to exchange stories and share the warmth of community. Over steaming cups of spiced ginger tea, Emma recounted her discoveries with a voice that trembled between anger and sorrow. Kwame, whose lined face bore the marks of a lifetime spent witnessing both triumph and tragedy, listened intently as she revealed the grim details of the mansion's hidden rooms and the chilling evidence she had found. "The past," he said softly, his eyes reflecting the flicker of the tea shop's lantern, "has a way of reaching out to us when we least expect it." His words, gentle yet laden with an unspoken warning, resonated with Emma's own fears. She recalled the countless nights spent haunted by dreams of her older sister, her confidant and guiding light, who had vanished under mysterious circumstances. In those dreams, her sister's laughter mingled with eerie warnings, and Emma could almost sense the presence of an unseen force urging her to uncover the truth. "Kwame," she implored, "I have uncovered secrets that go beyond mere cruelty. These clues point to a deliberate, calculated betrayal, a vendetta that has been meticulously planned for decades." Kwame's expression turned grave as he leaned closer. "My dear Emma," he murmured, "sometimes the truth is so heavy that even the strongest among us must falter under its weight." Their conversation, punctuated by moments of painful silence and shared glances of understanding, deepened the mystery that shrouded the mansion. Kwame reminded her of the African adage that every shadow has its source, and every wound, however deep, can heal with the light of truth. His words, delivered with a quiet authority, fortified her resolve. Emma realized that she was not alone in her fight. She had allies in the form of memories, of voices from the past, and of kindred spirits determined to see justice done. The tea shop, with its humble decor and the steady hum of local music playing softly in the background, became a sanctuary where hope was rekindled. Emma's heart, battered by years of pain and loss, began to beat with a new rhythm, a rhythm that echoed the promise of retribution and the possibility of healing. In that moment, as she clutched her cup and listened to Kwame's quiet reassurances, she understood that her journey was far from over. The mansion had revealed only a fragment of its dark tale, and the road ahead was paved with peril and heartbreak. Yet, fortified by the shared wisdom of an old friend, Emma knew that she would face whatever lay ahead with unwavering determination, ready to peel back every layer of deceit until the truth, no matter how brutal, was laid bare for all to see. Memories of childhood, vivid and piercing, surged like a tidal wave as Emma returned to the mansion alone in the early hours of dawn. In the solitude of her room, with the faint light of morning barely breaking through heavy drapes, she allowed herself to remember the days when her world was filled with laughter and the boundless joy of youthful innocence. Those were the days when her older sister, Amina, was not just a sibling but a guardian angel, a beacon of hope and love in an often unforgiving world. Amina's smile had the power to soothe even the deepest wounds, and her gentle voice could transform despair into a quiet confidence. But as Emma grew, so did the shadows that loomed over their lives. The bullies, with their venomous words and cruel deeds, had cast a pall of darkness that slowly suffocated the light in their home. One by one, the relentless assaults on their dignity eroded the protective cocoon that Amina had so carefully woven around them. Then, one fateful evening, Amina vanished without a trace. A loss that shattered Emma's heart and left an indelible scar on her soul. Now, as she sat amidst the relics of a past that refused to be forgotten, Emma clutched a faded photograph of the two sisters, their smiles frozen in time. The image was a bittersweet reminder of a love that was lost, of innocence stolen by the cruelty of those who had once worn the mask of respectability. In that quiet moment, the mansion around her seemed to breathe with the echoes of forgotten lullabies and the soft whispers of promises made in the twilight. The memories, though painful, were also a source of strength, a reminder that every scar was a testament to survival and every tear had watered the seeds of resilience. "I will find you, Amina," she whispered into the silence, her voice trembling with both sorrow and fierce determination. The promise was not just to herself but to the spirit of her sister, whose memory demanded justice. The mansion, with its labyrinthine halls and secret chambers, had become a mirror reflecting the duality of Emma's existence. The battle between the desire for revenge and the yearning for closure. And as the first light of day filtered through the cracked window, illuminating the dust motes that danced in the air, Emma resolved that this journey, though fraught with pain, would ultimately lead her to the truth. The pain of loss would be transformed into a burning resolve, a call to action that echoed the eternal rhythms of life in Africa, where every ending was but a precursor to a new beginning. One humid afternoon, as the oppressive heat of the city gave way to a gentle, cooling breeze, Emma found herself drawn to a part of the mansion that she had previously overlooked, a narrow, unassuming door tucked away in a forgotten corner of the library. The door, masked by shadows and layers of peeling paint, exuded an air of mystery. Its presence was a silent challenge, daring her to uncover what lay beyond. With the resolve born of years of pent-up anger and heartbreak, Emma retrieved an old, ornate key from a small box hidden beneath a loose floorboard, a key that seemed to hum with its own secrets. The key fit perfectly into the lock, and as she slowly turned it, the door creaked open to reveal a narrow staircase descending into darkness. The smell of damp earth and musty decay filled her nostrils as she peered into the abyss below. Every instinct urged her to turn back, yet the call of the unknown was too potent to resist. Stepping cautiously onto the cold, stone steps, Emma felt as if she were leaving behind the familiar pain of her past and entering a realm where the truth lay dormant, waiting to be awakened. The air grew cooler and thicker with every step, carrying with it the silent echoes of forgotten voices. The staircase led to a small, subterranean room that was cluttered with relics and trinkets from another era, framed photographs with edges yellowed by time, a scattering of old letters tied with faded ribbons, and a solitary piece of jewelry that glimmered faintly in the dim light. Her eyes locked onto a delicate necklace, its silver chain and intricate pendant unlike anything she had ever seen. It was as if the necklace held the very essence of lost memories, whispering to her of secrets buried deep within her family's history. The realization struck her like a thunderbolt. This was no random collection of forgotten items. Each piece here, carefully preserved in the silence of the basement, was a clue to a conspiracy that had haunted her family for decades. Emma's heart pounded in her chest as she reached out and picked up the necklace. In that moment, the weight of destiny pressed down upon her, and she felt the crushing enormity of the choice before her, to unearth the dark truths of her past, or to bury them forever in the silence of the forgotten basement. The cool metal of the necklace against her skin was a poignant reminder of the love and loss that had defined her life. A tangible connection to Amina, whose absence had long been a source of unspeakable sorrow. As she clutched the necklace tightly, a wave of determination surged through her. Whatever lay ahead, Emma knew that this discovery would force her to confront the brutal legacy of betrayal, and to make choices that would echo far beyond the decaying walls of the mansion. With the necklace cradled in her trembling hands, Emma's descent into the mansion's secret depths felt like a journey into the very heart of darkness itself. The narrow staircase opened into an expansive, hidden chamber whose walls were lined with cryptic symbols and faded murals depicting ancient legends of justice and retribution. The chamber was illuminated only by a single, flickering lantern that cast eerie shadows, making the room seem both sacred and sinister. As Emma carefully stepped forward, every footfall resonated like a drumbeat of impending fate, echoing off the cold stone walls. The atmosphere was thick with the scent of history and regret, and each symbol etched on the walls appeared to whisper its own tale. A tale of love betrayed, of promises broken, and of a lineage tainted by cruelty. In the center of the chamber, an old wooden desk lay scattered with yellowed documents and brittle papers that chronicled events long since buried by time. Emma's eyes scanned the documents with a mixture of dread and resolve, piecing together a narrative that was as shocking as it was deeply personal. These were the records of clandestine meetings and covert plots, evidence that her family had been targeted by a carefully orchestrated campaign of abuse and exploitation. The ink on the pages, though faded, told a story of deliberate malice. Names of powerful men, coded references to illicit deals, and the calculated disappearance of those who dared to defy the established order. It was here, in the silence of this hidden chamber, that Emma discovered the true scope of the conspiracy. The bullies who had once tormented her, whose cruelty had been dismissed as random acts of spite, were revealed to be the masterminds behind a series of calculated crimes that had forever altered the course of her family's destiny. The documents connected the dots between the present torment and the dark events of the past. A past where her beloved sister, Amina, had become an unwilling casualty in a brutal game of power and betrayal. As the gravity of the revelation sank in, Emma felt a surge of conflicting emotions. Anger burned in her veins, mingling with a profound sense of loss and sorrow. The necklace, a relic of her sister's memory, pulsed in her hand as if it too recognized the magnitude of the moment. With every word she read, every symbol she deciphered, the mansion seemed to come alive with the echoes of a hidden history that was as painful as it was undeniable. Emma's heart pounded in her chest, each beat a solemn reminder of the heavy burden of truth that she now carried. In that silent, sacred space, she understood that the path to justice was fraught with peril and that the revelations before her would forever change the course of her life. Yet, even in the face of such overwhelming darkness, a spark of defiant hope flickered within her, a promise that the truth, no matter how brutal, would one day set her free. The following day dawned with an ominous quietness that seemed to mirror the turbulent emotions raging within Emma. Determined to piece together the puzzle of her family's shattered past, she began a methodical investigation of every nook and cranny in the mansion. With the documents from the hidden chamber safely tucked away, she revisited the corridors and secret passageways, scrutinizing every faded mural and cryptic inscription for clues that might shed light on the connection between her bullies and the unspeakable crimes of decades ago. Every artifact, every scrap of paper, carried with it a sliver of history, a fragment of a truth that had been obscured by time and neglect. Emma's mind raced as she recalled whispered rumors from her childhood, tales of secret meetings held under the cover of darkness, of mysterious figures slipping through shadowed alleys, and of a betrayal that had left a deep, unhealable scar on her family. In quiet moments of reflection, she recalled the gentle cadence of her sister Amina's voice, a sound that had once been a soothing lullaby amid the chaos of their lives. Now, that memory was a bittersweet symphony, its notes both beautiful and laced with sorrow. As she moved from room to room, Emma encountered remnants of past lives. A tarnished set of silverware, a broken vase that had once held vibrant orchids, and scattered photographs that bore silent witness to moments of joy and despair. The mansion's legacy was not simply one of decay and ruin. It was also a repository of human experience, a tapestry woven from threads of love, loss, and the ceaseless struggle for justice. In one particularly poignant moment, Emma uncovered a hidden diary belonging to a servant who had witnessed the dark deeds committed within these walls. The entries spoke of secret alliances and betrayals that had been meticulously planned, of a network of power brokers who had colluded to orchestrate a series of heinous acts that culminated in the disappearance of those who dared to challenge the status quo. As Emma read the diary by the light of her lantern, her eyes filled with tears of both anger and heartbreak. Each word was a reminder of a truth that had long been suppressed, a truth that connected the cruelty of her bullies directly to the tragic fate of her family. The realization was as sharp as a knife's edge. The mansion was not merely a relic of personal vendetta but a monument to systemic injustice, a symbol of the deep-seated corruption that had infected every level of society. And so, with her resolve hardened by the weight of newfound evidence, Emma vowed that she would bring the hidden truths to light. In that moment, She knew that her quest for revenge was no longer just a personal battle. It had become a crusade for justice that extended far beyond the decaying walls of the mansion. Late that evening, as the sky blazed with the last embers of the setting sun, and the city of Accra settled into a hushed lullaby of nocturnal sounds, Emma found herself confronting the ghosts of the past in the solitude of a small courtyard behind the mansion. The courtyard, overgrown with wild grasses and dotted with ancient baobab trees, exuded an eerie sense of timelessness. It was here that she recalled the first time she had heard the story of her family's suffering. A tale passed down in hushed whispers among relatives and friends, a tale so painful that it had been carefully hidden away from the prying eyes of an unkind world. That night, as the gentle rustling of leaves mingled with the soft hum of distant drums, Emma's mind replayed the haunting memories of her sister Amina, a beacon of hope whose disappearance had left an unfillable void. The bitterness of loss was tempered by a fierce determination that surged like a river breaking through a dam. With the diary and the scattered clues as her guide, she began to map out the intricate web of deceit that had entangled her family. Every detail mattered. The names scribbled hastily in the margins of a page, the cryptic references to meetings held in hidden rooms, and the repeated mentions of a secret society that had once wielded power with ruthless efficiency. They were not just bullies, she murmured to herself, her voice a mix of sorrow and steely resolve. They were architects of our downfall. The courtyard, bathed in the soft glow of moonlight, became a confessional where Emma's heart spilled out its pain and anger. In the quiet solitude, she could almost hear Amina's voice urging her to seek the truth, to rise above the mire of betrayal and reclaim what had been taken from them. The weight of history pressed upon her, a relentless force that made every heartbeat a solemn vow to uncover the secrets that had haunted her family for so long. With a renewed sense of purpose, Emma made a silent promise to herself and to the memory of her sister. She would not rest until every lie was exposed and every wrong was righted. In that sacred moment under the ancient African sky, the seeds of revolution were sown. A quiet, powerful determination that would soon transform her quest for vengeance into a movement for justice. The darkness around her was both a cloak and a canvas, setting the stage for the dramatic unraveling of a past steeped in treachery and loss. The days that followed were marked by an electrifying mix of determination and dread, as Emma plunged deeper into the labyrinthine secrets of the mansion. Every room she entered, every hidden compartment she uncovered, seemed to pulse with the memories of a time when innocence was betrayed by cruelty and deception. The mansion was a microcosm of her own fractured past, a repository of relics that chronicled not only personal heartache, but also the collective trauma of a community that had suffered under the weight of injustice. With each discovery, Emma felt both closer to and further from the truth. The weight of the documents and artifacts she had found was almost too heavy to bear, yet it was that very burden that fueled her relentless pursuit of justice. One afternoon, while meticulously examining a set of faded blueprints and old family records, she found a series of dates and names that sent a chill down her spine. The blueprints, detailed and precise, revealed that the mansion had been more than just a residence. It had once served as a clandestine meeting place for those who orchestrated the downfall of her family. The names listed within the documents were not random. They were the very names of the bullies who had tormented her and the shadowy figures who had worked in tandem with them to suppress any dissent. "This is the evidence I need," Emma whispered to herself, her voice echoing softly in the empty room. The documents painted a grim picture, a calculated conspiracy that spanned decades and had roots that dug deep into the foundations of local power structures. Outside, the streets of Accra were alive with the rhythms of everyday life, a stark contrast to the silent, oppressive atmosphere within the mansion. Yet, even amidst the bustling markets and the joyful banter of neighbors, Emma could feel the invisible tendrils of her family's tragic past weaving through the present. The more she uncovered, the more she realized that her fight was not just a personal vendetta, it was a battle against a system that had long thrived on corruption and cruelty. In the solitude of her study, surrounded by stacks of evidence and the silent testimony of lost souls, Emma vowed to expose the intricate network of deceit that had condemned her family to a life of sorrow. Each page she turned, each artifact she examined, was a step closer to confronting the ghosts that had haunted her for so long. and with every revelation her resolve grew stronger, her heart more determined to see justice done. The mansion, once a symbol of her torment, was slowly transforming into a beacon of hope, a place where the truth, however painful, could finally be set free. Night after night, as the city slumbered beneath a blanket of stars, Emma dedicated herself to meticulously piecing together the shattered fragments of her family's history. In the quiet solitude of the mansion's attic, among crates of dusty relics and mementos from bygone eras, she uncovered letters that spoke of clandestine alliances and whispered promises of retribution. The faded ink on the fragile pages recounted meetings held in secret where influential figures had plotted against those they deemed unworthy. Each letter was a painful reminder that the atrocities inflicted upon her family were not random acts of cruelty but part of a larger, more sinister design. The documents hinted at the involvement of powerful individuals whose names were now buried in the annals of forgotten scandals. As Emma read through the carefully preserved correspondence, she began to see the outlines of a conspiracy that had been meticulously orchestrated over decades. A web of deceit spun by those who had once wielded absolute power. The attic, with its creaking beams and shadowed corners, became a sanctuary where the past and present converged. Here, amidst the relics of old lives, Emma's mind wandered to the memories of Amina, a sister whose gentle laughter had once been the melody of her days, whose absence now reverberated like a mournful echo through the corridors of her heart. "Amina, I promise you," Emma whispered into the darkness, her voice choked with emotion, "I will find the truth and make them pay for what they have done." The weight of that vow was both a curse and a blessing, a heavy mantle of responsibility that she bore with quiet dignity. Each piece of evidence, every tear shed in solitude, became a testament to her unyielding determination. In that attic of memories, where every relic told a story of love lost and justice denied, Emma's resolve was tempered in the fires of grief and rage. The journey ahead was fraught with danger, but she knew that the truth, no matter how brutal, had to be revealed. The mansion was slowly relinquishing its secrets, allowing her to glimpse the dark tapestry of betrayal that had defined her family's fate. And as the night deepened, the ancient walls seemed to murmur in agreement, a promise that, in time, justice would prevail. Amidst the silence and the shadows, Emma clung to the hope that every truth uncovered, every secret exposed, would bring her one step closer to redeeming the legacy of those who had suffered at the hands of ruthless oppressors. In the days that followed, as the sun climbed high over the bustling streets of Accra, and the vibrant colors of the city mingled with the echoes of history, Emma's investigation took on a new urgency. Word of her discoveries began to ripple quietly through the community, carried on the whispers of neighbors and the hushed conversations in local tea stalls. The mansion, once a place of silent despair, was now alive with the energy of impending revelation. Emma organized her findings, laying out the scattered pieces of evidence on a large, worn table in the mansion's dilapidated dining hall. Here, under the watchful gaze of faded portraits and the distant hum of cicadas, she methodically connected each clue like threads in a tapestry. There were photographs of solemn faces, documents bearing the signatures of those now considered untouchable, and cryptic symbols that linked the bullies to a network of criminal masterminds. The realization that the bullies had orchestrated far more than mere acts of personal malice sent a shudder through her entire being. Their cruelty was but a symptom of a broader, systemic rot that had poisoned the very soul of her community. Emma began to feel a fierce responsibility, not only to avenge the wrongs done to her family, but also to shine a light on the corruption that had long festered in the shadows. "This is bigger than us," she confided to herself in a moment of quiet resolve. "This is a battle for the soul of our people." Late into the afternoon, as she meticulously annotated each document and traced the lineage of deceit, Emma could feel the presence of Amina's spirit guiding her. The soft clink of the long-lost necklace, now carefully placed beside a particularly damning letter, seemed to whisper promises of justice and retribution. Every piece of evidence was a step closer to unmasking the true villains, figures who had hidden behind a facade of respectability while inflicting unspeakable pain. The mansion's once oppressive silence was gradually giving way to a stirring of hope and defiance. Emma knew that exposing the truth would not be easy. The forces aligned against her were powerful and deeply entrenched. But with every piece of evidence laid bare on that weathered table, her resolve grew stronger. The pain of her family's past was interwoven with the promise of a better future, a future where truth and justice would finally prevail. In that moment, surrounded by the relics of sorrow and the embers of hope, Emma vowed to keep fighting until every secret was exposed and every wrong was righted. As Emma's investigation advanced, the mansion itself seemed to change its tune, as if acknowledging the battle that was unfolding within its ancient walls. Each day, new fragments of the past emerged from hidden recesses, beckoning her deeper into a labyrinth of betrayal and shattered dreams. In a neglected study tucked away behind a heavy velvet curtain, Emma uncovered a series of detailed maps and handwritten notes that charted the intricate network of the bullies' operations. These documents revealed secret routes used for covert meetings, clandestine exchanges, and unspeakable transactions that had left a permanent scar on her family's history. The maps were annotated with cryptic symbols and dates that, when pieced together, painted a picture of systematic planning, a blueprint for cruelty that spanned generations. Emma's mind whirled with the magnitude of what she had discovered. Each revelation was like a double-edged sword, inflicting fresh wounds while also providing a glimpse of the long-hidden truth. "They thought they could erase our past," she murmured with quiet fury, her voice echoing off the walls of the study, "but the truth is indelible." Outside, the vibrant pulse of Accra continued unabated. Street vendors called out their wares, children played with infectious laughter in dusty alleys, and the city's heartbeat resonated in the rhythm of everyday life. Yet, within the mansion, time seemed to slow, as if the building itself were holding its breath in anticipation of the inevitable reckoning. Emma carefully organized the documents, determined to build an irrefutable case against those who had wronged her family. With each piece of evidence, she felt closer to exposing a truth that was as old as the scars that marred her past. The study became her sanctuary, a quiet haven where the ghosts of history could finally speak, where every page turned was a step toward reclaiming justice. In a moment of rare vulnerability, she allowed herself to grieve not only for the loss of her beloved sister, but also for the innocence that had been stolen from her and countless others. Yet, even as tears streamed silently down her cheeks, Emma's spirit burned with an unquenchable desire for vindication. The mansion's faded grandeur, with its ornate ceilings and time-worn furniture, bore witness to the resilience of the human spirit, a spirit that refused to be silenced by oppression. With the evidence meticulously gathered and laid out before her, Emma vowed that she would not rest until the full measure of the bully's treachery was brought to light. Every map, every note was a testament to the fact that justice, however long delayed, would one day prevail, and the truth, no matter how brutal, would finally be set free. In the quiet interlude between day and night, as the city's cacophony gave way to a contemplative hush, Emma found herself grappling with the profound implications of her discoveries. The mansion, with its crumbling walls and hidden corridors, had transformed from a symbol of personal vendetta into a veritable archive of historical injustice. As she sat in the dim glow of a single, flickering lamp, Emma pored over her notes, aligning dates and cross-referencing names in a bid to piece together the full extent of the conspiracy that had so cruelly marred her family's legacy. It was during one of these solitary evenings that an unexpected knock at the mansion's heavy, creaking door interrupted her reverie. Standing on the threshold was an enigmatic figure. A man in his late 50s, draped in a faded dashiki and exuding an air of quiet authority. His eyes, sharp and knowing, held a mixture of sorrow and defiance that resonated with Emma's own turbulent emotions. "I have been expecting you," he said softly, his voice carrying the weight of secrets long kept. Without waiting for an invitation, he stepped inside, his presence both comforting and unsettling. He introduced himself as Baraka, a retired investigator who had once worked to expose corruption at the highest levels of society. Baraka's own past was a tapestry of betrayal and redemption, a journey marked by the scars of confronting powerful adversaries. Over cups of strong, locally brewed coffee, he listened intently as Emma recounted the disturbing details of the mansion's hidden archives. His eyes narrowed as she spoke, and when she mentioned the coded symbols and clandestine meetings, he leaned forward, his tone grave. "There is a network far larger than you can imagine," Baraka warned. "One that has orchestrated tragedies and silenced voices for decades. Your family's suffering is but one chapter in a much darker story. His words, laced with both empathy and urgency, struck a chord deep within Emma. Here was a man who had seen the underbelly of corruption and had fought his own battles against it. In Baraka's measured cadence and unyielding determination, she found an unexpected ally, a mentor who could help her navigate the treacherous path ahead. Together, they began to chart a strategy to expose the hidden network of power brokers and wrongdoers. Baraka advised caution, for the forces at work were both vast and dangerous. Yet he also instilled in Emma a newfound sense of hope. The truth, he said, is the one weapon that can shatter even the most impenetrable fortress of lies. In that quiet, contemplative night, as the mansion's shadows danced in silent witness to their exchange, Emma realized that her quest for justice was evolving. It was no longer just about personal revenge. It was a battle for truth, a crusade against a system that had long thrived on secrecy and oppression. With Baraka's guidance and the weight of undeniable evidence at her fingertips, Emma felt a stirring of resolve that would carry her through the darkest of nights, a determination to bring to light every hidden injustice, no matter the cost. In the days that followed, Emma and Baraka forged an unlikely but formidable alliance. Together, they delved deeper into the labyrinth of secrets that the mansion guarded so jealously. Baraka's experience as an investigator lent a new dimension to Emma's raw determination as he taught her to sift through the layers of deceit with precision and care. Their investigation took them beyond the mansion's decaying walls and into the very heart of the community, a sprawling network of old contacts, reluctant witnesses, and hidden informants who had long lived in the shadows of the powerful. In the crowded markets of Kumasi and the narrow, winding streets of Accra, whispers of a decades-old conspiracy began to surface. An old friend of Baraka's, a retired schoolteacher with eyes that had seen too much sorrow, recounted how influential figures had once conspired in secret meetings in opulent mansions much like the one Emma now owned. Her voice, trembling with memories of injustice, spoke of secret pacts and the dark art of silencing dissent through fear and manipulation. They did not act out of simple malice, she confided, but with a calculated precision that left no room for remorse. These chilling revelations were not isolated. Each piece of testimony was a fragment of a larger mosaic, a network of collusion that spanned generations. With each new lead, Emma felt the magnitude of the betrayal more acutely. The evidence was mounting, and the connections between the bullies and the broader criminal syndicate became impossible to ignore. Late one rainy evening, as the downpour drummed steadily against the mansion's broken windows, Baraka and Emma pored over a collection of old photographs and handwritten notes in a makeshift office set up in a corner of the mansion's sprawling library. The photographs captured somber faces of men in uniform and elegantly dressed women, their expressions a mixture of pride and trepidation, a visual record of a time when power was wielded without accountability. In that hushed, rain-soaked moment, Emma felt the weight of destiny pressing down on her. The investigation was no longer a solitary quest for revenge. It had become a mission to expose a deeply entrenched system of corruption that had stolen the futures of countless innocent lives. With Baraka's steady guidance and the growing chorus of voices demanding justice, Emma's resolve hardened into an unbreakable shield against the forces of darkness. Every new piece of evidence was a spark in the darkness, a promise that the truth, no matter how deeply buried, would one day see the light of day. And as the storm outside raged on, echoing the turbulent emotions within, Emma vowed that she would not rest until every secret was brought into the open, until every name associated with her family's suffering was held accountable. The turning point in Emma's harrowing journey arrived on a humid morning when the sun's feeble rays broke through the dense canopy of clouds, casting long shadows over the mansion's weathered facade. In the dusty recesses of the basement, a place that had become both a repository of forgotten memories and a crucible for her newfound resolve, Emma made a discovery that would forever alter the course of her quest. Amidst scattered relics of the past, she uncovered a delicate, intricately designed necklace, its silver chain glinting softly in the dim light. The necklace was unmistakably the one that had once belonged to her sister, Amina, a symbol of the love and loss that had haunted Emma since childhood. Holding it close, Emma felt a surge of emotion that blurred the lines between sorrow and determination. In that charged moment, memories of Amina's gentle laughter and the warmth of her embrace flooded back, mingling with the harsh reality of the betrayal that had torn their family apart. As if guided by fate, Emma began to piece together the final fragments of the puzzle. The necklace, with its unique design and the initials subtly engraved on the back, provided the missing link between the hidden chamber's cryptic clues and the identity of those responsible for her family's downfall. It became clear that the bullies, far from being mere petty tormentors, had been part of a grand conspiracy that had orchestrated not only their physical abuse but also the calculated disappearance of her beloved sister. The revelation was as devastating as it was undeniable, a cruel tapestry of greed, power, and long-buried secrets that stretched back decades. Emma's heart pounded with a mixture of grief and rage as she realized that every act of cruelty, every lie, had been meticulously planned to erase her family's dignity. The necklace was more than a family heirloom, it was a tangible testament to the love and betrayal that defined her past. Clutching it tightly, Emma vowed that she would honor Amina's memory by exposing the entire web of deceit, even if it meant unearthing horrors that had long been hidden away. The discovery marked a critical juncture in her quest, a moment when personal loss intertwined irrevocably with the fight for justice. The truth, once obscured by layers of deceit and fear, was now emerging in stark, unyielding detail. With the necklace as her silent witness, Emma steeled herself for the battles ahead. Each step forward would bring her closer to the truth, even if it meant confronting enemies whose power and influence spanned far beyond what she had ever imagined. In that basement, surrounded by the relics of a past filled with betrayal and sorrow, Emma's resolve was reborn, a fierce, unyielding determination to reclaim her family's honor and ensure that the dark legacy of those bullies would finally be laid to rest. As Emma emerged from the basement, the necklace still warm against her skin, the mansion's corridors seemed to buzz with a newfound intensity. The weight of her discoveries pressed upon her with relentless urgency, and every shadow appeared to hide a secret waiting to be revealed. Word of the evidence began to seep through the cracks of the mansion's time-worn walls, carried on murmurs that reached even the most hidden corners of the community. In quiet, determined tones, Emma began to piece together her final plan. A blueprint for a reckoning that would expose every vile deed committed by those who had wronged her family. In one of the mansion's vast, decaying halls, she rehearsed the confrontation in her mind, every detail etched with precision. The confrontation was not just about personal revenge. It was a battle against an entrenched system of corruption that had left countless lives in its wake. As she practiced her words, Emma recalled the bitter dialogues of her past, the harsh taunts and cold dismissals that had once shattered her spirit. Now, those same voices fueled her determination. You will answer for every tear shed, for every moment of silence that allowed injustice to flourish, she vowed softly, her voice carrying across the empty hall like a solemn oath. Outside, the city hummed with the promise of change, a bustling metropolis where ancient traditions and modern struggles intermingled in a dance as old as time. In local markets, in the small gatherings of elders, and even in the quiet corners of busy bus stations, whispers of the mansion's dark secrets and the impending reckoning began to circulate. Emma's revelations were starting to awaken dormant memories and ignite sparks of rebellion among those who had long suffered in silence. And yet, as the day wore on and the cool night began to settle over the city, a creeping dread began to surface in Emma's heart. Every step forward into the truth felt like a descent into deeper darkness, where the ghosts of the past lurked in every corner. With the evidence meticulously gathered and the weight of her sister's memory driving her forward, Emma knew that the final confrontation was inevitable. The path ahead was treacherous, paved with the remnants of shattered trust and bitter betrayals. Yet, as she clutched the necklace, a symbol of both loss and unyielding hope, Emma steeled herself for what was to come. Each heartbeat resonated with the promise of justice, a promise that would soon force the perpetrators to face the consequences of their heinous actions. In that charged moment, as the mansion's ancient walls whispered tales of retribution and despair, Emma realized that her journey had reached its crescendo. The final act was imminent, and the truth, as brutal and unyielding as it was, would soon be unleashed upon a world that had long turned a blind eye to injustice. In the ensuing days, as Emma prepared to confront the dark legacy of her past, an intense internal battle raged within her, a struggle between the yearning for unbridled vengeance and the haunting desire for peaceful resolution. The mansion, now a crucible of her deepest emotions, resonated with the echoes of every injustice, every heartbreak, and every tear that had fallen in the shadows of its corridors. Emma spent long hours poring over the evidence, reconstructing timelines, and mapping out the intricate connections that tied the bullies to the sinister network responsible for her family's suffering. In quiet solitude, she would often catch herself whispering words of both defiance and despair to the ghost of Amina, seeking solace in memories that were as precious as they were painful. Should I expose everything, even if it shatters what remains of my heart? She would ask the silent room, her voice a soft murmur that mingled with the creaks of the ancient wood around her. The decision weighed on her like a mountain of sorrow, a decision that could either bring long overdue justice or plunge her further into a vortex of loss and regret. In moments of deep introspection, Emma recalled the comforting rhythms of traditional songs and the wisdom of elders who had taught her that every wound could eventually be healed even if the scars remained. The mansion's dark corners and hidden passages, once symbols of haunting grief, now seemed to pulse with the possibility of redemption. Emma began to see her fight not only as a personal vendetta but as a crusade for all those who had been silenced by injustice, a battle for the dignity of every soul that had ever been crushed by the weight of tyranny. Late one evening, as the full moon cast its ethereal glow through broken windows, Emma and Baraka met in a secretive enclave within the mansion to review the final pieces of their evidence. With solemn determination, they discussed the repercussions of revealing the truth, a truth that would undoubtedly upend the established order and force the powerful to reckon with their sins. "This is our moment," Baraka declared, his voice resolute and unwavering, "to shine a light into the darkest corners of our past and demand accountability." Emma nodded, feeling the surge of a renewed purpose that mingled with the lingering pain of loss. The mansion, with its tapestry of memories, became a battleground for justice, a stage upon which the final act of retribution would unfold. As dawn approached and the first rays of light began to penetrate the gloom, Emma resolved that no matter how much it cost her, she would expose the truth. The evidence was irrefutable and the time for silence had long passed. With every piece of evidence meticulously gathered, she was ready to confront the bullies and the corrupt system that had haunted her family for generations. In that quiet, determined moment, the line between vengeance and justice blurred, and Emma's heart steeled for the inevitable storm that was about to break over the mansion and her life. The day of reckoning arrived with a storm that seemed to mirror the fury burning inside Emma. Dark, swirling clouds gathered over Accra, as if nature itself had sensed the impending confrontation, and the city's pulse quickened in anticipation. Emma, fortified by months of relentless investigation and the unwavering support of Baraka, stepped out into the torrential rain, her eyes filled with a steely resolve that shone brighter than any stormy sky. Clad in a simple yet dignified outfit that spoke of both traditional elegance and modern defiance, she made her way to a clandestine meeting spot arranged with trusted allies, a discreet location where the truth could be unveiled to a community that had long suffered in silence. As she navigated through slick, rain-soaked streets and crowded alleyways, memories of her sister Amina surged forth like a torrent of emotion. Every raindrop felt like a cleansing balm, washing away the years of pain while simultaneously igniting a fierce determination to right the wrongs that had defined her past. In the meeting room, a humble, dimly lit hall filled with wary but determined faces, Emma presented the evidence that she had painstakingly gathered. With a trembling yet powerful voice, she recounted the sordid details of the conspiracy that had targeted her family, linking the bullies to decades of systematic oppression and corruption. The room was charged with a palpable tension as witnesses, some of whom had remained silent for years, began to speak out. "I remember," an elderly man recalled, his voice cracking with emotion, "how our community was silenced by fear and intimidation." His words resonated with many, sparking a collective awakening among those who had long felt marginalized and voiceless. The evidence, displayed with unyielding clarity on makeshift screens and spread out on battered wooden tables, left no room for doubt. Photographs, documents, and the haunting image of the long-lost necklace all served as undeniable proof of the deep-seated injustice that had permeated their society. In that stormy hall, as the rain pounded against the roof and thunder rumbled in the distance, Emma found herself both a beacon of hope and a vessel of raw, unfiltered pain. Her confrontation with a former bully, now a broken man whose eyes reflected years of regret, was particularly poignant. In a voice filled with both bitterness and a yearning for redemption, he admitted, "I never meant for it to go this far." His words, though feeble, were a confession of guilt that only deepened the wounds of those who had suffered. Emma's heart pounded in tandem with the storm outside, each beat a reminder that the truth, however brutal, was finally free. In that climactic moment, as the dark forces that had once ruled with impunity trembled under the weight of collective accountability, Emma knew that her journey was nearing its final act. A culmination of years of heartbreak and relentless pursuit of justice that would not be silenced by the storm. In the aftermath of that explosive confrontation, the air in Accra seemed to vibrate with a newfound sense of hope and accountability. Emma, now both a harbinger of justice and a living embodiment of resilience, took a moment to reflect on the tumultuous path that had led her to this watershed moment. The meeting had set off a chain reaction, one that rippled through the community like a cleansing wave. People who had long lived in the shadows of fear began to speak out, their voices joining together in a chorus demanding that the dark legacy of the bullies and their accomplices be exposed. Emma's revelations had forced even the most powerful figures to confront the consequences of their actions. And as the storm subsided, whispers of reform and retribution filled the once silent streets. Yet, amid the burgeoning hope, Emma was not immune to the lingering scars of her past. In quiet moments of solitude, she found herself revisiting memories of Amina, their shared laughter, the warmth of a sisterly embrace, and the unspoken promises of a brighter future. Those memories were both a source of strength and a reminder of the immeasurable loss that had fueled her relentless quest. One particular evening, as the city settled into a gentle calm after days of relentless rain, Emma sat on the crumbling steps of the mansion's veranda. The soft hum of the city mingled with the distant rustle of palm fronds, and in that reflective silence, she allowed herself to grieve for the innocence that had been forever stolen. Yet, even as tears glistened in her eyes, there was an unmistakable spark of triumph, a silent vow that the truth would not be buried again. With Baraka by her side, now regarded as both mentor and steadfast friend, Emma began planning the next phase of her crusade. They would take the evidence to the authorities and broadcast the revelations to every corner of the nation, ensuring that the voices of the oppressed were heard and that the legacy of injustice was finally overturned. "Our journey does not end here," Emma declared to a gathering of supporters in a public forum that crackled with anticipation. "It is only the beginning of a revolution of truth and healing." The words reverberated across the room, igniting hope in the hearts of those who had long suffered in silence. In that charged atmosphere, where the promise of accountability hung in the air like the first light of dawn, Emma felt both the weight of the past and the exhilarating possibility of a reformed future. The scars, though deep, would not define her. Instead, they would serve as the foundation upon which a legacy of justice and transformation would be built, a legacy that would shine like a beacon for generations to come. As the momentum of change began to build, Emma's resolve to unveil the full extent of the dark conspiracy grew even stronger. In a series of clandestine meetings held in modest community centers and crowded market squares, she and Baraka presented the meticulously gathered evidence to local activists, journalists, and even some brave members of the government. Their revelations shook the very foundations of the established order. The documents, photographs, and personal testimonies that detailed the decades-old network of corruption were too damning to ignore. Each piece of evidence was a testament to the cruelty that had been inflicted on her family and countless others, an indictment of a system that had long thrived on silence and fear. The public reaction was explosive. In heated town hall meetings, citizens demanded accountability, and a growing chorus of voices called for reforms that would prevent such atrocities from ever recurring. Emma, whose journey had been marred by loss and betrayal, now stood as a symbol of courage and resistance. Every interview, every press conference was a battle cry against injustice, a rallying call to every person who had ever been oppressed. The energy was palpable, and the movement quickly gained momentum, as more and more people rallied behind her cause. Yet, even as the tide of public opinion began to turn, Emma could not shake the haunting presence of her sister's memory. Amina's face, forever etched in her heart, served as both a reminder of the cost of silence and an inspiration to push forward. One afternoon, as she reviewed a final batch of newly uncovered documents in the quiet sanctuary of the mansion's study, Emma felt a surge of determination. "I will not rest until every lie is exposed," she vowed. Her voice a mixture of fierce determination and tender sorrow. The struggle for justice was far from over. The forces aligned against her were vast and insidious. But now, bolstered by the collective strength of a community awakened to the truth, Emma was ready to face them head-on. The revolution of truth had begun, and with every revelation, the dark veil that had long shrouded her family's past was gradually lifting. The journey ahead was uncertain and fraught with danger, but Emma's spirit, tempered by loss and fueled by an unwavering desire for justice, would lead her through the storm. In every public forum and every private conversation, her message was clear. The time for reckoning had come, and the dark legacy of corruption would soon be consigned to history. In the weeks that followed, the momentum of the movement reached a fever pitch. Emma's impassioned speeches and the damning evidence she had presented ignited a fire in the hearts of many, transforming whispers of injustice into a resounding call for accountability. In the corridors of power, those who had once operated with impunity found themselves forced to answer for their crimes. The once oppressive silence was shattered by the roar of a community that demanded change. Emma traveled across the region, speaking to groups in small towns and bustling urban centers alike, sharing her story with a raw honesty that captivated her audiences. Every word was imbued with the pain of loss, the weight of betrayal, and the fierce hope that justice would prevail. Along the way, she encountered both allies and adversaries, a former bully whose remorse now shone in his tear-stained eyes, local leaders who had once turned a blind eye to corruption, and everyday citizens whose lives had been upended by the same forces that had tormented her family. Each conversation deepened her understanding of the widespread impact of the network of deceit, and it became clear that the struggle was not merely personal but emblematic of a greater fight for dignity and truth. Yet, even as victory seemed within reach, the specter of Amina's absence loomed large, a poignant reminder of the cost of their long silence. Late at night, when the world was hushed and only the soft hum of the city remained, Emma would hold the long-lost necklace close, feeling the weight of both sorrow and resilience in its cool metal. In those solitary moments, she whispered promises to her sister, a vow that their shared legacy of love and suffering would be transformed into a future built on truth and justice. The movement gained strength, drawing attention from national media and even reaching the corridors of international organizations committed to human rights. Every new voice that joined the cause was a testament to the enduring power of truth. Emma, standing before a sea of determined faces at a large public rally, declared, "We will not be silenced. We will fight until every secret is brought to light, until every injustice is met with its due consequence." The cry was met with thunderous applause, a moment of collective catharsis that resonated deep within the hearts of all present. In that moment, Emma's journey, fraught with pain, loss, and an unyielding quest for redemption, became a beacon of hope for countless others who had suffered under the weight of oppression. The promise of change, though still fragile, shone like a bright star on a dark horizon, guiding them toward a future where truth and justice would prevail. Then, at the climax of this long, arduous journey, as Emma stood alone in the silent, oppressive darkness of the mansion's basement once more, the air seemed to thicken with an almost tangible dread. Clutching the long-lost necklace, her sister Amina's final, silent testimony to a life cut short, she felt a chill run through her body. In that charged moment of stillness, when the only sound was the rapid beat of her heart echoing against ancient stone walls, a cold, insidious hand gripped her shoulder. The touch was both gentle and terrifying, as if the past had materialized to confront her. In a voice that was barely a whisper yet carried the weight of all the sins and secrets of decades past, a figure in the shadow murmured, "You shouldn't have opened that door, sister." The words sent a shockwave of fear and sorrow through Emma, freezing her in place as she stared into the dark void behind her. Every painful memory, every betrayal, and every tear shed in the relentless pursuit of justice converged into a single, harrowing moment of truth. In that breathless instant, Emma realized that her battle was far from over. The revelations she had unearthed were just the beginning, a prelude to a far more profound, painful reckoning that awaited her. The mansion's walls, steeped in the echoes of countless injustices, now seemed to pulse with a warning that some secrets, once disturbed, could never be put back to rest. As her heart pounded in her ears and her body trembled with a mix of dread and defiant resolve, Emma faced the ultimate question: would she continue to expose the dark legacy that had claimed so much of her life? Or would she allow the specter of her past to crush her spirit? The choice was agonizing, for it pitted the desire for vengeance against the longing for peace. Yet, in that moment of peril, with the cold hands still gripping her shoulder and the whispered threat echoing in the darkness, Emma understood that the only way forward was to confront the darkness head-on. Her journey, marked by heartbreak, betrayal, and an indomitable will to reclaim the truth, was far from over. And so, as the final scene of her saga unfolded before an unseen audience, Emma turned to face the looming shadows with a resolute gaze. "If you believe this is the end, you are mistaken," she declared softly, her voice a blend of sorrow and fierce determination. "This is only the beginning." To all who have followed this tumultuous journey, if this story has stirred your heart and ignited a spark of truth within you, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends, and comment your perspectives or key lessons learned. Let our voices rise together in unison against the darkness of injustice.